Alrighty, hello everyone, how are you today? I really like this month.
Because it's raining almost every day.
It's so great. Today's episode of Mixed Media in Coloring Books will be a little bit different because I will not be breaking down my whole process on some coloring page, but I will be testing mixed media. Specifically, I will be testing how Prismacolor pencils work on top of Karin Brushmarker Pro, which are water-based markers, and on top of Arrtx acrylic markers, which are acrylic markers. Honestly, I do not think that the brand mattered that much, but these are the products I have and I was using.
I will try to make this video short.
But it will have two parts. In the first part, I will be trying to use the pencils on top of these markers on blank paper. And in the second part, I will be using them and trying them in the coloring book. And for that, I will be using the coloring book Naturescapes. And specifically, I will be working on this picture. I did the background with Arrtx markers and all the leaves and butterflies and flowers with Karin brush markers. And I already applied the Prismacolor on half of the background, but in the video you will see just a quick example, so the video will not be that long. And you can actually looking forward to a video in which I will be showing how to blend Karin brush markers like a pro. Well, how to blend Karin brush markers to achieve the result as you can see on this green butterfly.
As usually, full color along will be on my Patreon.
As soon as I finish it. Alright, so now let's jump right into the video. If you have any questions, pop me a message in the comments and I will get back to you as soon as I can. So I have this huge set of Karin markers. Those are Brushmarker Pro. Oh, Brushmarker Pro. And it's a set of 60 markers. Today I would like to try how well I can use them under the colored pencils. So let's take some color. I will try something. Ooh. And these are actually water-based. I have them for some time now. And I tried to use them with those acrylic markers, but I didn't in the end. And as you can see, it's necessary to let it dry before you apply another layer. It doesn't bleed through. I have some of the Arrtx acrylic markers in my box with other pencils. And I also try to make a square and then try how colored pencils will work on top of them. So I have some yellow. This is deco yellow, yellow chartreuse, and indigo blue. And maybe I can take crimson red as well. And these green are already dry, so I just want to try. Yeah, I definitely feel that the paper is more rough. What I was expecting was that the application will be as smooth as there would be no marker, but of course water-based markers, they affect the surface of the paper, so it cannot be the same. However, a little bit rough surface is better than having silky smooth surface as it is with acrylic markers. So definitely it's better to work on top of water-based markers than on top of acrylic markers. I think the deco yellow here only emphasized the strokes, and indigo blue wasn't able to cover the edges. Now let's look at these examples because it's water-based and this is not watercolor paper, so it already started to peel off the paper. This is just like with any other wet media, so you have to be really careful when you are using them in coloring books. One layer is fine, more layers not fine. But of course, it depends on the paper in the coloring book. On the other hand, acrylic markers, they created a surface that is quite hard to color over with pencils, especially on part where we have these layers. And this is a nice example. You can see that not even the indigo blue wasn't able to cover the area where I applied more layers of the acrylic marker. Oh, and let's try it on the water-based marker. So as you can see on the area where I did more layers with water-based marker, the paper already started to peel off. This is not watercolor paper. It cannot withstand a bigger amount of water. Of course, on watercolor paper it would behave differently, but in coloring books we don't usually have watercolor paper, so that's why I recommend be very careful in coloring books, and before applying your colored pencils, make sure that the paper is really dry, because wet paper is fragile paper and you could really damage the paper. But the best is to try it right in the coloring book. As I said at the beginning, I was using Arrtx acrylic markers for the background and Karin Brushmarkers for the rest. And because I was blending several colors together, I left the page to dry overnight, so I make sure that the page is really dry. Overall, wax-based pencils like Prismacolors work well on top of both acrylic and water-based markers, but there are some points that is good to keep in mind. First of all, it's the color of the pencil that is affected not only by the base color, but also the color of the pencil may not be that strong and opaque, especially on top of acrylic markers, because acrylic markers have a silk-like finish, so the pencil doesn't stick to the surface that much. However, this can be an advantage if you want to make highlights, and you probably already use it like this if you are doing your highlights with Posca or other acrylic pens. And I also use this highlight trick to apply colored pencils over my white Posca, because it makes the highlights more subtle. On the other hand, if you want to make it darker, like I do in this picture where I wanted to add shadows, not highlights, then it takes a little bit more effort to achieve that, especially if you want to make deep shadows. I recommend using a little bit of black pencil if the dark pencil you are using isn't dark enough, but be careful because you can easily overdo it with black. You can also notice the texture. You can leave it like this if that's what you want to achieve and what you like. But if you want a smoother finish, you can use a light shade of the color you are using, or white, or I think that blender pencil could work as well. It's important if you are using mixed media not to expect the same result as if you would color only with pencils on clear paper, because it can never be the same if you are layering more art supplies. Also, the coverage, especially with the light color, may not be consistent, as you can see on the part where I tried it, because on some parts you can use a little bit more of the acrylic markers, or you can blend it with another colors, so the layer will be thicker. It's not bad to use pencils over acrylic pens. It's just different, and it's just important to be aware of these little points, so you are prepared for anything unexpected. Working on top of the water-based markers was a bit different. The surface is rather rough than silky smooth, so it will take the pigment from pencil well, but here we have to be careful, especially with the pressure we use. The more layers and blending you use, the more fragile is the paper. There are coloring books that can hold water well, even if they don't have watercolor paper, However, the difference against regular watercolors is that with water-based markers we usually work longer on one area, which can lead to peeling and bleeding through the page and to bigger damage. So it's not the same like working with watercolors. And because the surface after using water-based markers is a bit rough, we also get a bit of the texture on our pencil layer. But I think it's not as noticeable as on top of the acrylics. And again, you can use light shade of the color you are using or white or blender to smoothen everything up. In conclusion, using a combination of markers and pencils can lead to quite interesting results, and in my opinion, it helps to improve our creative and coloring skills, and also it makes the coloring faster and more interesting and more fun. So I hope you give it a try if you haven't already. If so, let me know how you use these art media and how you like it. Have a meow someday, and see you in the next video!